Officer Maria Santos had been patrolling the quiet suburban streets of Millbrook for over 10 years. She thought she had seen everything in her career, but nothing could have prepared her for what she would discover on that cold Tuesday morning in November. Her partner, a German shepherd named Rex, sat alert in the passenger seat of their patrol car as they responded to a welfare check call on Pine Street. The call had come in from Mrs. Henderson, an elderly neighbor who noticed that two small children had been sitting on the front porch of house number 847 for several hours without any adult supervision. The temperature was dropping and the children appeared to be wearing only thin pajamas and no shoes. Mrs. Henderson had tried knocking on the door multiple times, but no one answered. As Officer Santos pulled up to the modest two-story house, she immediately noticed the overgrown yard and broken fence. The paint was peeling from the walls, and several windows were cracked or boarded up. But what caught her attention most were the two small figures huddled together on the wooden porch steps. They couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, and they were identical twins with messy blonde hair and hollow eyes that seemed too old for their young faces. Rex began whimpering softly as they approached the house, his trained nose picking up scents that made him uneasy. Officer Santos had learned to trust her K9 partner's instincts over the years. Rex had helped solve countless cases and had an uncanny ability to sense when something was seriously wrong. Today was no different. The twins looked up as Officer Santos approached, but they didn't run or cry out like most children would when they saw a police officer. Instead, they simply stared with vacant expressions, their small bodies trembling from the cold. The little girl had her arm wrapped protectively around her brother, and both children had dark circles under their eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and constant fear. Officer Santos knelt down to their level. Speaking in the gentlest voice she could manage, the children didn't respond to her questions about their names or where their parents were. They seemed afraid to speak, communicating only through glances and small gestures between themselves. It was as if they had developed their own silent language born out of necessity and survival. Rex approached slowly, his tail wagging gently as he sensed the children's distress. The dog had a special gift with traumatized victims, and Officer Santos had seen him work his magic before. But even Rex seemed unusually subdued as he sniffed the air around the children, his ears flattening against his head in a way that told Santos everything she needed to know about the situation they were walking into. When Officer Santos tried the front door, she found it unlocked. The smell that hit her as the door creaked open made her stomach turn. The house reeked of garbage, unwashed bodies, and something else she couldn't quite identify but knew meant trouble. Rex growled low in his throat. A sound that meant danger was present. The living room was cluttered with empty bottles, dirty dishes, and piles of clothing scattered everywhere. As they searched the house, Officer Santos discovered that the children's parents were nowhere to be found. The refrigerator was nearly empty except for some spoiled milk and moldy bread. The children's bedroom contained 2 mattresses on the floor with no sheets or blankets, and the walls were stained with what appeared to be food and other substances. It was clear that these children had been living in conditions no child should ever have to endure. The twins followed silently behind Officer Santos and Rex as they completed their search of the house. They seemed to know every creaking floorboard and which areas to avoid, moving through their home with the practiced caution of children who had learned to be invisible. Their silence was deafening, and Officer Santos realized that these children had likely been neglected and possibly abused for months, if not years. When backup arrived, Officer Santos made the difficult decision to remove the children from the home immediately. As she gently guided them toward her patrol car, she noticed how the little girl continued to hold her brother's hand, never letting go even for a moment. Rex walked beside them, his presence seeming to provide some small comfort to the frightened twins as they prepared to leave the only home they had ever known, despite how terrible it had been. The ride to the police station was eerily quiet. Officer Santos glanced in her rearview mirror every few seconds to check on the twins, who sat huddled together in the back seat. Rex had positioned himself so he could see them, his gentle brown eyes never leaving the children's faces. The little girl, who couldn't have weighed more than 40 pounds, kept stroking her brother's hair in a motherly gesture that broke Santos's heart. At the station, Detective Williams took over the case while Officer Santos stayed close to provide comfort to the children. The twins refused to be separated, clinging to each other whenever anyone tried to talk to them individually. Their medical examination revealed the true extent of their neglect. Both children were severely underweight, dehydrated, and showed signs of prolonged malnutrition. The little boy had several old scars on his arms and back, while his sister had what appeared to be burn marks on her hands. Dr. Emily Chen, the pediatrician who examined them, had seen cases of child abuse before, but she later told colleagues that she had never encountered children who were so completely shut down emotionally. The twins didn't cry, didn't ask for their parents, and barely made eye contact with any of the adults trying to help them. They seemed to exist in their own protective bubble, communicating only with each other through whispered words and meaningful looks. Social worker Janet Morrison arrived within hours to begin the process of finding temporary placement for the children. She had 20 years of experience working with abused and neglected children, but even she was struck by the twins' behavior. They moved together like a single unit, never more than arm's length apart, and they seemed to anticipate each other's needs without speaking. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. The investigation into their home life began immediately. Neighbors were interviewed, and a disturbing picture started to emerge. The children's mother had been struggling with drug addiction for years, and their father had abandoned the family 6 months earlier. Several neighbors admitted they had heard crying and screaming from the house but hadn't called authorities because they weren't sure what was happening. Mrs. Henderson, who had finally made the call, was overcome with guilt that she hadn't acted sooner. Officer Santos couldn't stop thinking about the twins as she completed her reports. She had been a police officer long enough to know that she needed to maintain professional distance, but something about these children had touched her deeply. Perhaps it was the way they protected each other, or the fact that they had survived such terrible circumstances while maintaining their bond as siblings. Rex seemed equally affected, whimpering whenever Santos mentioned the case. The search for the children's mother intensified when drug paraphernalia was found hidden throughout the house. Detective Williams discovered that Sarah Mitchell, the twins' mother, had multiple arrests for possession and had been in and out of rehabilitation programs for the past 3 years. She had been missing for over a week, leaving her 5-year-old children completely alone to fend for themselves. As the day wore on, the twins gradually began to show small signs of trust toward the people caring for them. The little girl, who they learned was named Emma, finally whispered her name to Officer Santos after Rex gently nuzzled her hand. Her brother Ethan remained silent, but he allowed Dr. Chen to clean his wounds without pulling away. These tiny steps forward felt like major victories to everyone involved in their care. The media got hold of the story by evening, and news vans began gathering outside the police station. Chief Robertson made the decision to keep all details confidential to protect the children's privacy. But word was already spreading through the community about the 2 young twins who had been found in such deplorable conditions. Local churches and community groups began calling to offer assistance, clothing and toys for the children. That night, Officer Santos volunteered to stay late to help with the children's transition to emergency foster care. The twins had been given clean clothes, a warm meal, and medical attention, but they still seemed lost and afraid. When it came time to leave with their temporary foster family, Emma and Ethan clung to each other so tightly that the adults had to gently pry their hands apart just to get them into car seats. Officer Santos promised them that they would see each other again soon, a promise that she hoped desperately she could keep. The emergency foster home was run by Margaret and Robert Thompson, a retired couple who had been caring for children in crisis situations for over 15 years. They had seen many difficult cases, but Emma and Ethan's complete dependence on each other was unlike anything they had experienced before. The children arrived carrying nothing but the clothes officer Santos had given them and a small stuffed rabbit that Emma had been clutching since they found her. Margaret tried everything she could think of to help the twins feel safe and welcome. She prepared their favorite foods, set up a cozy bedroom with twin beds, and even bought some toys she thought they might enjoy. But Emma and Ethan seemed afraid to touch anything or make themselves comfortable. They sat together on the edge of one bed, watching every move the adults made with suspicious eyes that had learned not to trust. Rex had made such an impression on the children that Officer Santos arranged for regular visits to the Thompson home. The German Shepherd seemed to understand his role as a bridge between the twins and the adult world. When Rex was present, Emma and Ethan would relax slightly, even allowing Margaret to brush their hair and help them change into clean pajamas. The dog's calm presence was the only thing that seemed to break through their protective shell. Dr. Chen worked closely with child psychologist Dr. Amanda Foster to develop a treatment plan for the twins. The psychological evaluation revealed that both children were suffering from severe trauma, but they had developed an extraordinary coping mechanism through their sibling bond. They had essentially raised each other, with Emma taking on a protective maternal role despite being only minutes older than Ethan. Their survival had depended on their ability to stay together and watch out for each other. The investigation into their mother's whereabouts took a dramatic turn when Sarah Mitchell was found, unconscious in an abandoned building downtown. She had overdosed on heroin and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. When she finally regained consciousness 3 days later, detectives were able to piece together the horrific story of neglect and abandonment that had led to her children's situation. Sarah revealed that she had been struggling with addiction since the twins were toddlers. Their father had left when the drug use became too much for him to handle, and Sarah had been spiraling downward ever since. She admitted to leaving the children alone for days at a time, while she searched for drugs or tried to get clean in various programs. The twins had learned to survive on their own, eating whatever they could find and taking care of each other when their mother was too high or sick to function. Community support for Emma and Ethan grew stronger every day. Local businesses donated clothes, toys, and money for their care. The elementary school they would eventually attend prepared special programs to help them transition into a classroom environment. A local pediatric dentist offered free dental care after learning that neither child had ever seen a dentist. The outpouring of love and support was overwhelming, but it also highlighted just how much these children had been failed by the system meant to protect them. Officer Santos found herself thinking about the twins constantly, even during her off-duty hours. She had children of her own, and the thought of Emma and Ethan's suffering kept her awake at night. Rex seemed equally affected, often whimpering and pacing when they weren't visiting the foster home. The bond between the police officer, her K9 partner, and the traumatized twins was growing stronger with each passing day. The legal proceedings began as authorities worked to determine the best long-term solution for the children. Sarah Mitchell would face multiple charges of child neglect and abandonment once she was released from the hospital. The twins' father had been located in another state, but he showed no interest in taking custody of his children, claiming he was unable to care for them properly. This left Emma and Ethan in the uncertain world of the foster care system. Margaret Thompson noticed small improvements in the twins' behavior as they began to feel safer in her home. Emma started speaking in whispers to Margaret when Rex was present, usually asking about her brother's well-being or if they would be allowed to stay together. Ethan remained almost completely nonverbal, but he began to show interest in the picture books Margaret would read to them before bedtime. These tiny signs of progress gave everyone hope that the children could eventually heal from their traumatic experiences. The challenge now was finding a permanent placement that would keep the twins together while providing them with the specialized care they needed. Most foster families were not equipped to handle children with such severe trauma, and the waiting list for appropriate homes was long. Time was running out on their emergency placement, and everyone involved in their care was working frantically to ensure that Emma and Ethan would not be separated in the system. As weeks passed, Officer Santos found herself becoming more personally invested in Emma and Ethan's future than she had ever intended. She visited them every few days with Rex, watching as the children slowly began to trust their foster family, but she could see the fear in their eyes whenever social workers came to visit, and she knew they were terrified of being moved again or separated from each other. The twins had developed a routine that helped them feel safe in the Thompson home. They woke up together, ate meals sitting side by side, and refused to go to sleep unless they were in the same room. Margaret had eventually moved their beds closer together so they could hold hands while falling asleep. It was heartbreaking and beautiful to witness the way they comforted each other through their nightmares and anxiety, attacks Dr. Foster's therapy sessions. With the children were progressing slowly but steadily, Emma had begun to speak more freely about their life before the rescue, revealing details that made everyone involved in their care realize just how much these children had endured. She described taking care of Ethan when he was sick, finding food in neighbors' garbage cans when their mother forgot to feed them, and hiding with her brother in closets when strange people came to the house looking for drugs. The community's response to the twins' story continued to grow. Local news coverage had sparked a citywide movement to help vulnerable children, and donations poured in from people who wanted to make a difference. A trust fund was established for Emma and Ethan's future education and medical needs. The mayor announced new initiatives to improve the city's response to child welfare cases. Inspired by the twins' story and the community's reaction to their plight, Officer Santos began to realize that her feelings for the children went beyond professional concern. She found herself lying awake at night thinking about their future, worrying about whether they would find a family who truly understood their special bond. Her own children, ages 8 and 10, had heard about Emma and Ethan and frequently asked when they could meet them. Her husband Mark noticed the change in Maria's behavior and gently suggested that maybe they should consider applying to become the twins' foster family. The idea terrified and excited Santos at the same time. She and Mark had discussed fostering children in the past, but they had never taken any concrete steps toward making it happen. Now, faced with 2 children who desperately needed a stable, loving home, the possibility seemed both overwhelming and perfectly natural. Rex had already shown his approval of the twins, and Santos knew that her family had the resources and emotional capacity to help them heal. Sarah Mitchell's legal situation became more complicated as additional charges were filed against her. Child welfare investigators had uncovered evidence of drug activity in the home dating back several years, and neighbors came forward with disturbing stories about screaming and crying that had gone on for months. The district attorney was building a case that would likely result in Sarah losing her parental rights permanently, which would clear the way for the twins to be adopted if a suitable family could be found. Emma's progress in therapy accelerated when Dr. Foster introduced art therapy into their sessions. The little girl began drawing pictures that told the story of her and Ethan's survival. Her drawings showed 2 stick figures holding hands while bigger figures loomed threateningly in the background. She drew pictures of empty refrigerators, dark rooms, and most heartbreakingly, images of herself feeding her brother with her own small hands. These artistic expressions helped her process trauma that she didn't have words to describe. The search for a permanent placement became more urgent when Margaret Thompson received news that her own daughter would be returning home with 3 children of her own after losing her housing. The emergency foster home would no longer be available for Emma and Ethan within the month. Social Services was scrambling to find another temporary placement, but the twins' special needs made them difficult to place with most foster families. Officer Santos made her decision on a Thursday evening after visiting the twins and seeing Ethan have a particularly severe anxiety attack when a new social worker came to check on them. The little boy had hidden under the bed and refused to come out until Rex found him and gently coaxed him back into Emma's arms. Watching the dog's patient, loving response to the traumatized child, Santos knew that her family was meant to help these children heal. That night, she sat down with Mark and their children to discuss the possibility of becoming Emma and Ethan's foster family with the intention of adoption. The conversation was emotional and intense, with everyone understanding that this decision would change their lives forever. But as they talked about the twins' needs and their family's ability to meet them, it became clear that this was the right path forward. Rex seemed to sense the importance of the discussion, lying quietly at Santos's feet while the family talked. When they finally agreed to move forward with the fostering application, the German Shepherd's tail began wagging as if he understood that his new favorite humans might soon become permanent members of his pack. The foster care application process for Officer Santos and her family was expedited due to the urgent nature of Emma and Ethan's situation. Social workers conducted extensive background checks, home visits, and interviews with every member of the Santos family. The twins' caseworker, Janet Morrison, was cautiously optimistic about the placement. She had seen how the children responded to Officer Santos and Rex, and she believed this family might be exactly what Emma and Ethan needed to heal. Santos's own children, Sophia and Miguel, were excited but nervous about becoming big siblings to the traumatized twins. Dr. Foster worked with the family to prepare them for the challenges they would face. Emma and Ethan would likely have nightmares, behavioral issues, and difficulty trusting their new family members. The adjustment period could take months or even years, and everyone needed to be patient and understanding. The twins were told about the possibility of moving to Officer Santos's home, but their reaction was mixed. Emma seemed hopeful, especially when she learned that Rex would be there every day, but Ethan became more withdrawn and anxious. The little boy had been hurt by so many broken promises that he couldn't allow himself to believe good things might happen to them. His sister tried to comfort him, but she was also struggling with her own fears about trusting another family. Margaret Thompson worked closely with the Santos family to prepare for the transition. She shared all the little details she had learned about the twins' preferences and fears. Emma liked to sleep with a small light on. Ethan was afraid of loud noises. Both children hoarded food in their pockets because they were afraid of being hungry, and they had severe separation anxiety whenever they couldn't see each other. The first official visit to the Santos home was carefully planned and supervised. Emma and Ethan arrived holding hands, their eyes wide as they took in their new surroundings. The house was warm and welcoming, with family photos covering the walls and Rex's toys scattered around the living room. Sophia and Miguel had prepared a special welcome sign and had picked out some of their own toys to share with the twins. Rex's behavior during the visit was remarkable. The trained police dog seemed to understand his role as the twins' protector and comfort provider. He stayed close to Emma and Ethan throughout their tour of the house, allowing them to pet him and lean against him whenever they felt overwhelmed. When Ethan had an anxiety attack in the backyard, Rex immediately positioned himself between the child and the adults, creating a safe space for the little boy to calm down. The gradual transition process took several weeks, with the twins spending increasing amounts of time at the Santos home before finally moving in permanently. Emma adapted more quickly than her brother, tentatively exploring her new bedroom and even smiling when Rex brought her one of his favorite tennis balls. Ethan remained suspicious and fearful, testing the family's patience and commitment with challenging behaviors like refusing to eat or hiding when adults approached him. Dr. Foster continued working with the twins throughout the transition, helping them process their feelings about having a new family. Emma drew pictures of stick figures standing together in a house with a big dog watching over them protectively. Ethan's drawings were darker, showing separated figures and stormy skies. The art therapy provided valuable insights into how each child was coping with the changes in their lives. The legal proceedings to terminate Sarah Mitchell's parental rights moved forward as she struggled with her recovery in a court-mandated rehabilitation program. She had missed every scheduled visit with her children and had violated the terms of her treatment program multiple times. Her lawyer argued that she deserved another chance to get clean and rebuild her relationship with Emma and Ethan, but the evidence of years of neglect and abandonment was overwhelming. The twins' adjustment to their new school was another major challenge. They had never attended school regularly and were significantly behind their peers academically. Emma could barely read at a kindergarten level despite being 6 years old, and Ethan was completely nonverbal in the classroom setting. Special education teachers worked closely with them, understanding that their learning difficulties stemmed from trauma rather than intellectual disabilities. Officer Santos found herself constantly amazed by the twins' resilience and their unwavering devotion to each other. Even as they began to trust their new family, Emma and Ethan maintained their protective relationship. Emma would always make sure Ethan had enough food before eating her own meals, and Ethan would become agitated if his sister was out of his sight for more than a few minutes. Their survival bond was beautiful, but also heartbreaking evidence of what they had endured. The community continued to rally around the twins and their new family. Local businesses donated supplies for their bedrooms, tutors volunteered to help with their education, and other families offered playdates and support. The story of Emma and Ethan's rescue and recovery had touched hearts throughout the city, inspiring others to get involved in child welfare causes. As Christmas approached, the twins experienced their first real family celebration. They had never had a Christmas tree, presents, or holiday traditions. Emma was excited but cautious, while Ethan seemed overwhelmed by all the lights and decorations. Rex helped both children feel safe during the holiday preparations, staying close to them as they cautiously explored the joy and wonder of a family Christmas. 6 months after moving in with the Santos family, Emma and Ethan were showing remarkable progress, though their healing journey was far from over. Emma had begun speaking in full sentences and even laughed occasionally when playing with Rex in the backyard. Ethan remained more reserved, but he had started communicating through gestures and had formed a special bond with Miguel, who patiently taught him to play video games and build with blocks. The adoption process officially began when the court terminated Sarah Mitchell's parental rights. She had failed to complete her rehabilitation program and had been arrested again for drug possession. During the final hearing, she sat quietly in the courtroom, seemingly unaware of the magnitude of what was happening. The twins were not present for the proceedings, but Officer Santos attended to represent their best interests and to witness this crucial step toward their permanent security. Dr. Foster's work with the twins evolved as they became more comfortable expressing their emotions. Emma had progressed from drawing stick figures to creating detailed pictures of her new family, always including Rex as a central figure. She began talking about her fears and memories more openly, allowing the therapist to help her process the trauma and understand that she was truly safe now. Ethan's progress was slower but equally meaningful. He had started making eye contact with trusted adults and had even whispered his first words to Rex during a therapy session. The impact of Emma and Ethan's story extended far beyond their immediate family. Officer Santos had been invited to speak at conferences about child welfare and the role of K9 units in trauma response. Rex had become something of a celebrity in the police department, with requests coming in from other jurisdictions wanting to learn about his methods for comforting traumatized children. The German Shepherd seemed to understand his importance, carrying himself with quiet dignity as he continued his regular police work, while also serving as a therapy dog for the twins. School remained a significant challenge for both children. Emma was making progress with reading and math, but she still struggled with concentration and had difficulty sitting still for long periods. Ethan was attending special education classes and working with a speech therapist to help him feel comfortable communicating verbally. Both children required frequent breaks and the reassurance that they were safe and wouldn't be separated from each other. The Santos family had to make numerous adjustments to accommodate the twins' special needs. Mealtimes required patience as Emma still hoarded food and Ethan ate very slowly, testing each bite carefully as if he expected it to taste bad. Bedtime involved elaborate routines to help both children feel secure enough to sleep. Sophia and Miguel had shown incredible maturity in understanding their new siblings' behaviors and never complained about the extra attention Emma and Ethan required. A breakthrough moment came during a family camping trip when Ethan spoke his first complete sentence to Officer Santos. They were sitting by the campfire with Rex lying between them when Ethan looked up and said quietly, "Rex keeps us safe." It was the first time he had voluntarily spoken to an adult other than Emma, and Santos had to fight back tears as she assured him that yes, Rex would always keep them safe. The legal adoption was scheduled for the following month, and the twins were slowly being prepared for what this meant. Dr. Foster used play therapy to help them understand that they would officially become part of the Santos family forever. Emma seemed to grasp the concept and expressed excitement about having the same last name as her new parents and siblings. Ethan was more anxious about the formalities but seemed comforted when he learned that Rex would be at the courthouse with them. Community support for the family continued to pour in as the adoption date approached. Local news stations wanted to cover the story, but the Santos family chose to keep the ceremony private to protect the twins' privacy. However, they did agree to let the police department share Rex's role in the children's rescue and recovery, hoping it might inspire other communities to consider the therapeutic benefits of K9 units. Emma's artistic abilities continued to develop, and her drawings became more colorful and hopeful. She created a picture showing the entire Santos family, including Rex, standing in front of their house with bright sunshine overhead. When Dr. Foster asked her to describe the picture, Emma explained that it showed her forever family, where everyone was happy and safe. The transformation from her early dark, fearful drawings to these bright, optimistic images showed just how far she had come. The relationship between the twins began to evolve as they felt more secure in their new environment. Emma gradually released some of her protective responsibilities for Ethan, as she learned to trust the adults in their lives to keep them safe. Ethan became more independent, sometimes playing in different rooms from his sister for short periods. This growing independence was a healthy sign that they were beginning to heal from their trauma while maintaining their special sibling bond. Rex's role in the family had naturally evolved from rescue dog to therapy companion to beloved family pet. He seemed to understand that his official duties were complete, but he continued to watch over Emma and Ethan with protective devotion. The dog had his own bed in the twins' room and had appointed himself their personal guardian, sleeping between their beds every night to ensure they felt safe and secure. The adoption ceremony took place on a beautiful spring morning in Judge Patricia Williams' courtroom. Emma and Ethan sat between Officer Santos and her husband Mark, both wearing new outfits that Sophia and Miguel had helped them pick out. Rex lay quietly at their feet, wearing a special blue ribbon that declared him hero dog for his role in their rescue and recovery. The twins held hands throughout the proceedings, but for the first time, their grip wasn't desperate or fearful. Judge Williams had presided over hundreds of adoption cases, but she later said that Emma and Ethan's ceremony was one of the most moving she had ever witnessed. When she asked the twins if they understood that the Santos family would be their forever family, Emma spoke clearly into the microphone saying, "Yes, Your Honor, and Rex is our forever dog too." The courtroom erupted in gentle laughter and tears as even Ethan nodded his agreement and managed a small smile. The transformation in both children over the past year had been remarkable. Emma had grown several inches and gained healthy weight, her hollow cheeks filling out and her eyes regaining the sparkle that should have been there all along. She was reading at grade level now, and had made friends at school who invited her to birthday parties and sleepovers. Ethan, while still quiet, had begun speaking regularly and had developed a passion for building elaborate structures with blocks and toy cars. Dr. Foster's final evaluation report documented the incredible progress both children had made. The severe trauma symptoms that had dominated their early months with the Santos family had largely subsided, replaced by normal childhood behaviors and age-appropriate emotional responses. While they would likely need ongoing therapy support throughout their lives, both twins had developed healthy coping mechanisms and secure attachment to their adoptive family. The impact of their story continued to ripple through the community and beyond. The police department had implemented new training protocols for officers responding to child welfare calls, partly inspired by Officer Santos and Rex's handling of the twins' case. Several other K9 units had been trained in trauma response techniques, and Rex had become an unofficial trainer for dogs learning to work with vulnerable children. Emma and Ethan's elementary school had developed new programs to support children from traumatic backgrounds, recognizing that their academic struggles stemmed from survival mode rather than learning disabilities. Teachers received training on trauma-informed education, and the school created quiet spaces where overwhelmed children could retreat with trained therapy dogs when needed. 3 years after their rescue, Emma and Ethan were thriving members of the Santos family. Emma had discovered a talent for soccer and played on the local youth team, while Ethan excelled in art class and had begun creating beautiful sculptures and paintings. Both children maintained their close bond, but it had evolved from desperate codependency to healthy sibling loyalty and love. Rex, now 8 years old, had officially retired from active police duty, but continued to visit schools and community centers as a therapy dog. His work with Emma and Ethan had proven so successful that he had become the model for a new program pairing retired police dogs with children in the foster care system. The German Shepherd seemed to understand his important role, approaching each new child with the same gentle patience he had shown the twins. Officer Santos often reflected on how a routine welfare check had changed so many lives. Emma and Ethan had found their forever family, but they had also given the Santos family immeasurable joy and taught them about resilience, healing, and the power of unconditional love. The twins had shown an entire community what was possible when people came together to protect and nurture vulnerable children. The trust fund established for the twins had grown substantially, ensuring they would have resources for college education and any ongoing therapeutic needs. But more importantly, they had something that money couldn't buy: a family who understood their past, celebrated their progress, and was committed to supporting their future dreams and goals. On quiet evenings, the Santos family could often be found in their backyard, with Emma and Ethan playing while Rex watched protectively from his favorite spot under the oak tree. These peaceful moments represented everything they had worked toward: Safety, stability, love, and the simple joy of being a family. The twins' laughter filled the air, a sound that would have been unimaginable during those dark days when they were first discovered, but which now represented hope, healing, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. The community that had rallied around Emma and Ethan continued to benefit from their story, with increased awareness of child welfare issues leading to better support systems for vulnerable families. Their journey from neglect and trauma to love and security had touched countless lives and would continue to inspire others for years to come. Most importantly, two little children who had once known only fear and survival had learned to trust, to hope, and to believe in the possibility of happy endings.